Our next speaker is Lidia Best. Lidia is a cochlear implant user herself and the president of the European Federation of Hard of Hearing People and the chair of the National Association of Deafened People. Lidia, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. So thank you very much for inviting me to speak today and to share how European Federation of Hard of Hearing People was influencing the guidelines throughout the whole consultations. So my title is We Are Not Walking Audiograms, and I think it's a very apt one. Before we start talking about our influence, I would like to a little bit introduce to everyone the European Federation of Hard of Hearing People. So what is our vision? Our vision is Europe where people with hearing loss can live without any barriers and have all the opportunities to participate at all levels of society. And our mission is particularly important with regards to the guidelines consultation. We work to promote awareness, understanding, and collaborative practical actions that remove barriers, but to reach the full potential with access to affordable, universal hearing care rehabilitation, including hearing aids and cochlear implants. And I have really been encouraged to listen to my previous speaker talking about how important it is that hearing aid users also receive a very good care. It's crucial if we want to help them to make the next step into cochlear implantation. Next slide. So what we were focusing on and mentioning often was International Classification on Functioning, Disability and Health from the World Health Organization, which is a framework for measuring health and disability at both individual and population levels. And that promotes also a holistic approach, which seems to be throughout the whole discussion today. And what kind of holistic approach it is? So those are activities we perform and the limitations we may have, and what is the functioning of a person in the society at the individual level. Then there is also looking at participation in all areas of life, participation restrictions. So it can be leisure, it can be family life, and it can be employment, for example. And in addition, the framework looks at environmental factors which affect the experiences above and how are they facilitators or the barriers. And that is the reason because, next please, all of us have aspirations and our aspirations should be supported. Next slide. So what do we see as quality of life? And between the framework of the World Health Organization and ICF, we would like to see that audiogram presents only part of the information needed to support your client. So we need to see the whole person behind that audiogram. Hence, we are not the walking audiograms. What is our background? What are our feelings about hearing loss and the aspiration? And especially fitting hearing device, be it hearing aid, especially cochlear implants, it's only part of hearing care. Next slide. And that is how daily functioning with hearing loss is affected. It's by ability to adapt, by the fact if the society is accessible or not. It does increase a massive amount of stress when the society is not accessible, and we have to listen intently and try to decipher what's being said, for example, in the noisy environment. But most importantly, it's the quality of hearing care available to the individual. That makes a big difference. Next slide. And we also were looking at person-centered approach, which is part of the ICF framework, because I deliberated to get this sketch. A person who is new, especially new to the hearing loss, but even someone who's been going on for years with having hearing aids, entering into cochlear implantation is a minefield. And it really is full of contradicting information for some people. So it's so important that the information is provided. But what we also would like to see that there is an informed decision-making, meaning the patient autonomy and the choice is respected and valued. The healthcare plan is developed and executed based on the mutual agreement. The healthcare plan, it could be the whole rehabilitation plan, etc. What also is needed is for the patient, especially new to the situation, awareness of available intervention and technologies and what rehabilitation is available, and also communication based on the needs is so vital to the individual. We communicate in many different ways. But what is also very important is signposting to peer support group and organizations. Next one. And that is because person-centered approach will actually bring better results for us all. Next one. So I liked very much what I just have heard from the previous speaker. Receiving implant is just the beginning. Implant, for sure, and or hearing aid use can be very successful, depending, of course, on the individual and the hearing history. And we know it's everybody is different. And in situations like I'm showing here, when a grandfather can spend a quality time with his grandchildren reading stories, great, because they are in ideal conditions, quiet place. But then when someone with implant is in a noisy place, it's so-called dinner syndrome, we call it sometimes dinner table syndrome, then sorry, but we really cannot cope in those situations like that. So, next one. Implant and hearing aid does not distort hearing. And that is something what sometimes we see by being presented by irresponsible outlets, news outlets, or sometimes some of the doctors may use that kind of wording, which is wrong, because that really gives false expectations. And of course, major life adjustment is needed. So that's why it's so important to have peer support signposting. Next one. And also hearing does not equal understanding. I think I'm preaching to converted here right now, but in the CI clinic, the testing is done in ideal listening conditions. There are no reverberations. Sentences testing, sometimes single, sometimes whole sentence in a beautiful, quiet place. But what about hearing in noise? When I was recently tested, when I was tested in the quiet, not too bad, I've done quite well. The moment we have done hearing in noise testing, I flopped completely. And the only way to save that testing was to actually activate the scan or something like a forward focus on the cochlea nucleus. That was the only one which could help. So clearly, cochlear implant does not restore my hearing. So what is the real life like? Next. The acoustics and the buildings with reverberations. Now, majority of people who have a hearing loss are older. Going to church is a problem. There are false expectations placed on the user, and that comes from the society. The society has this preconception that as soon as we get cochlear implant, click, we can hear perfectly well. This is not true, and they are confused communicating with us. In real life, tinnitus, auditory processing disorder, can play havoc in the way we communicate and understand discussions. Listening fatigue and concentration fatigue, both of them play. And by the end of the day, many of us simply crash. So everyone has a different way of adapting. Not one person is the same. Next one. But what also, in addition to the discussion we had related to the guidelines, we also discussed the accessibility and clear communications matter, because they matter in the health consultations, and everybody can improve it. We can make sure that the appointments are accessible For example, is a health professional wearing clear mask, or even better, take the mask off if it's possible. Have you planned for accessible appointments, such as making sure that there is a clear audio, if it is a video call, for example, is there is captioning or sign language, written text, depending on what is the actual consultation on site or online. And sometimes it's so important, it's because when the questions are being asked, we may misunderstand and provide the wrong answers. So it is important that the consultations are also fully accessible, and also provide instructions to invite you to take home. You know, sometimes we really forget. So having those notes, it's really helpful to make sure that we follow instructions as well. And in addition, in general, from my experience in the UK, appointments with cochlear implants are sufficiently long to give us time to discuss, but not always. Sometimes some countries might feel pressure, and so it is important that we have additional time. But what we also need to make sure that full information with really informed choice is being taken forward. I was just earlier on today on the social media, and somebody was asking, oh, what has happened? I just had cochlear implantation, and I've lost my taste in mouth. So I asked, have you been told that this is possible side effect after the implantation? No. This cannot be happening. We have to be fully informed, but those are the possible side effects. Be honest, and we have to make sure that the honesty and transparency is in place. Next slide. So let's use those living guidelines to advocate for lifelong CI services, because we all need them. Thank you.